Welcome back, and this video will be an introduction to resource loading in Synchro Pro. So we've been resource loading throughout the course by adding these material resources, which are each specific element from the 3D view here, into the schedule. But what we're going to focus on now is the different type of resource loading, which is for example, laborers or concrete in general, rather than these quantities here. So let's start, for example, with a simple resource. If I right-click, add human, and call this laborer, then I can assign it to the tasks that use it. For example, let's say all slab activities will use that, so I can simply Control F and search for slab and find all and select all of those activities, and then I can drag and drop the laborer. Now if I check here, any of those slab tasks, they have the laborer on here, and then I can change the planned units per time. Or I can use fixed units. Now this will be very tedious if you want to change it for a lot of tasks, so we usually use scripts to do that. So I've used a formula before, and if you want to look at that formula, it's simply for concrete quantity sum 3 volumes, so it takes the model quantities and sums them up to get the concrete quantity per task. So why not use this to create, for example, a resource called concrete, and to keep track of the pouring of concrete in general. So I'll add that as a human resource, even though it's technically a material resource, just so that it's separate for visualization purposes. You can choose to do that or not do that, it's the same thing. And then I'll assign the concrete to all of these activities, so not including the parents. If it's a bigger schedule, I can switch to list mode and then Control A. And then for concrete here, we want to have fixed units. So I'll select all of these activities. And then notice here, if the resource isn't selected, you can't really do that because it has to know which assignment you're changing. So the task as well as the resource. I'll click on fixed units. So if the duration of the task increases, the quantity wouldn't. And now we're going to use a script to transfer these quantities into these values here. Now it's always a good idea to check the help file. So if you search for the help file and type in script, then you can look at these instructions, and you're not going to read all of those, but you usually search for what you want to do. So if I, for example, click here, Control F, and say planned units, it'll give me that planned work is the expression that I'm going to use, and then I can look for examples. So for example, here's how you look for set the duration of some tasks and stuff like that. And you can understand the syntax from here, or just use the one provided in this example. So I've written a script before. It's very simply for the selected resource, it's going to go to the assignment and set the property planned work to the task user field concrete quantity. So I'm going to preview that, and it gave me these arguments here, and I'm going to run it, and then I'll double check from the schedule. So now if I double check here, the planned units match the concrete quantity value. So now if I go to that resource, I can go to resource properties and say it has a cost per unit, for example. So let's just do $1 for example's sake. So it's not a fixed cost, it's a per unit cost. And now if I visualize the cost, for example, here, if I go to Windows, EVA graph, I can see how the cost changes for the whole project. Or maybe if I want to do just for the slabs, I can Control F like before and find all, and here it is just for the slabs. And that's a quick introduction to resource loading using both the manual methods as well as script, as well as adding cost for those resources.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you want to see more such series, consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you, and see you next time.